I divorced my husband after finding out about his affair with our son's tutor, but now my parents drops a bombshell that they will be attending their wedding. Oh well, so I attend the wedding as well and do this and all breaks loose. I 36 female never imagined that my life would turn out like this. I was married to my ex-husband Ryan. 38 male for 9 years. 9 years of what I thought was a solid loving partnership until I found out he was cheating on me with our son's tutor Emma. 27 female. It wasn't just a momentary lapse or a mistake, it was a full-blown calculated affair that had been going on for months right under my nose. The betrayal was bad enough, but the fallout from the affair made me question everything and everyone in my life, including my family. Ryan and I met in college. He was charming, funny, and seemed to genuinely care about me. We built a life together, had 2 sons now 10 and 7, and bought a house in a nice neighborhood. For years I thought we were happy. Sure, our marriage had its ups and downs, what marriage doesn't, but I never doubted his commitment to me or our family. When I hired Emma as a tutor for our older son, I thought I was doing the right thing. He was struggling in math and Emma came highly recommended. She was young and erudite and seemed genuinely invested in helping him succeed. What I didn't realize was that she was also investing in my husband. The affair came to light in the messiest way possible. My son casually mentioned that Dad and Emma are always laughing and hugging when you're not here. At first I dismissed it as nothing, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I started paying closer attention and noticed how often Emma was around. Even when she wasn't tutoring, she'd stay for dinner, join in on family game nights. She was practically living in my house. When I confronted Ryan, he denied everything. Gaslighting became his weapon of choice. You're imagining things, you're being paranoid, and Emma's just great with the kids. It wasn't until I found incriminating text messages on his phone that he finally confessed. He begged for forgiveness, swore it was a mistake, and promised to cut things off with Emma, but the damage was done. I filed for divorce almost immediately. Cheating was a deal breaker for me, something I had always made clear from the very beginning of our relationship. Ryan's pleas to reconcile fell on deaf ears. My family, however, didn't see it that way. My mother in particular was vocal about her disappointment. Marriage is about sacrifice, she told me. You need to think about the boys. Everyone makes mistakes. My refusal to take Ryan back was seen as a selfish, impulsive decision that was tearing the family apart. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Ryan fought to keep the house, arguing that it was in the boys' best interest to stay in their home. I couldn't afford the mortgage on my own, so I had no choice but to move into a small apartment. Custody was split 50-50, but the boys ended up spending most of their time with Ryan. The house was closer to their school and friends, and they seemed to enjoy being around Emma. She spoiled them with gifts and attention, cementing her role as the fun parent as I struggled to rebuild my life. I noticed something disturbing. My family was spending more time with Ryan than with me. They would drop by his house for dinner, attend his barbecues, and even invite him to family gatherings. My parents and siblings justified it by saying they were staying close to the boys, but it felt like a betrayal. When I brought it up, my mother dismissed my concerns. You can't expect us to cut Ryan out of our lives. He's the father of our grandchildren. My sister Sarah even joked that Emma was better for Ryan anyway because she was young and fun. The more they sided with Ryan, the more isolated I felt. 2 years after our divorce, Ryan and Emma announced their engagement. I won't lie. Hearing the news was like reopening an old wound. The boys were thrilled, of course, and excited about being part of the ceremony. I tried to put on a brave face for their sake, but the thought of Ryan and Emma playing perfect family while I was left out in the cold was almost too much to bear. As the wedding approached, I realized I needed a distraction. I asked my sister if she wanted to go out to dinner with me that night, but she said she had plans. When I turned to my parents, they also declined, claiming they had a prior engagement. I didn't think much of it until I overheard my younger son talking about how grandma and grandpa are coming to the wedding. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My family, my own family, was going to the wedding of the man who had betrayed me and the woman who had helped him do it. When I confronted them, they gave me the same tired excuse. We're going to support the boys. Support them, I snapped. They don't need support. They're surrounded by Ryan's entire family. You're going because you've chosen his side. My mother brushed me off. It's not about sides, it's about doing what's best for the boys. No, I said, my voice shaking, it's about you not respecting me. On the night of the wedding, I stayed home trying to distract myself with Netflix and a glass of wine. Around 8 p.m. my phone rang. It was Ryan, frantic. One of our sons had tripped down some stairs and broken his arm. Everyone at the wedding had been drinking, so they needed me to come handle it. Reluctantly, I on some workout clothes and drove to the venue. When I arrived, the scene was chaotic. Guests were laughing, drinking, and dancing, completely unaware of the situation. I found my son sitting on a bench holding his arm in pain. Emma was standing nearby looking irritated. When she saw me, she smirked and walked over. Oh wow, she said, eyeing my workout clothes and bare face. Did you just roll out of bed? I mean, I guess this is what happens when you stop trying. Her words coupled with her condescending laugh made my boil. I'd spent 2 years swallowing my pride, holding my tongue and trying to take the high road, but in that moment I snapped. I grabbed a glass of red wine from a nearby table and, without thinking it, directly in her face. The liquid splashed across her flawless white gown, dripping down into her designer heels. The crowd gasped as Emma stood there stunned, her perfect wedding hair now strewn with wine. Oops, I said, my voice trembling with anger. I guess I don't try hard enough. Ryan rushed over, furious. What the is wrong with you? He yelled. What's wrong with me? I shot back. What's wrong with you? You humiliated me, destroyed our family, and now you're mistress. Sorry, your wife thinks she can insult me while I'm here taking care of the child. You couldn't be bothered to watch. The room was dead silent. My family sat, frozen, too shocked to intervene, and to my so-called family I continued, turning toward my parents and sister. You should be ashamed of yourselves supporting the boys. No, you're supporting this. You've chosen their side time and time again, and tonight proves it. I hope the free food is an open bar were worth it. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked out, taking my son to the hospital. At the hospital, my son was treated for a broken arm. On the ride home he said, "Mom, I heard what you said back there. You were right, they shouldn't have gone. Since the wedding my family has been giving me the cold shoulder. My mother accused me of ruining the event and embarrassing the family. My father said I should have just let it go. Sarah hasn't spoken to me at all, and I honestly couldn't care less. My boys, on the other hand, seem to understand my frustration better than I expected. They've been spending more time at my apartment, and my older son even told me he doesn't want to go to his dad's as much anymore. While I don't regret standing up for myself, I can't help but wonder, was I wrong to snap? Should I have stayed quiet for the sake of avoiding drama, or did I finally do what I should have done years ago? Am I the a-hole? First of all, good for for standing up for herself after everything she's been through. Throwing the wine may not have been the classiest thing to do, but honestly Emma had it coming. She humiliated in front of a crowd after wrecking Op's marriage, and Op had every right to defend herself. Also, Op's family absolute garbage for siding with Op's ex and that woman. They don't deserve to have Op in their life. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I'm sorry, but your mom wanted you to forgive a cheater, and then your entire family double down by attending the wedding of the man who betrayed you. That's some next level betrayal, right there. Not the a-hole for the wine toss. It sounds like a breaking point that was a long time coming. Your ex's wife laughing at your looks after stealing your husband is rich. Good for you for not just sitting there and taking it. Not the a-hole. I know the wine throwing will get mixed reactions, but honestly it's nothing compared to the emotional damage Emma and your ex caused you. She laughed at you on her wedding day while you were literally there because your child needed you. That says everything about her character. And as for your family, they seem more invested in your ex than in supporting you. I hope you start distancing yourself from them because they've made it clear where their loyalties lie. Definitely not the a-hole. It's clear that this wasn't just about the wedding, it's about years of being disrespected and ignored by the people who should have had your back. The wine toss was a dramatic way to make a point, but honestly sometimes drama is necessary to wake people up. Your family needs to understand how much their actions have hurt you and Emma. She deserves that splash of reality. Stay strong. You're an amazing mom for prioritizing your kids through all this. My husband and I came from two different worlds. He came from a poor family and I came from upper middle class, but I didn't care. He was nice and caring. My family really liked him, and at that moment the family-in-law were the sweetest people. Everything was fine until we got married. One day mother-in-law showed up crying, saying she was about to get evicted because she was 2 months late on her rent. I felt really bad for her since she was a single mom and still had to provide for my husband's younger sister. My husband was a struggling freelancer at that time and couldn't do much, so I asked her how much she needed and gave her the money to help. She came back asking for more every 2 weeks or so, saying she had lost her job, couldn't find a new one, and needed money to pay her bills and buy food. It was to a point where I started to be short on money myself. Call me naive, but she was really good at playing the victim. In line when we would go to visit her, she would apologize for not being able to offer us something to eat, going as far as opening her fridge to show us it was completely empty, saying she was skipping meals so her daughter could eat. My husband and I started to become very suspicious at that point because I was giving her a lot of money. The fridge shouldn't be empty. I also noticed that she was wearing a lot of jewelry I had never seen before, but since it could be fake I still wasn't sure. So the next time she showed up to ask for help to pay the rent, I told her that I was a little busy but that I would give her the money in a couple of days. My husband went straight to her landlord and asked about the rent. Turns out she was never late on her rent, her bills were included in the price, and she had never lost her job. Not only that, but the amount of money she was asking was way more than the price of her actual rent. He also talked to his sister about the empty fridge. She was completely unaware of what was going on. His sister told him that the fridge was empty because they started eating at the restaurant every day and that she was finding that odd. But since she liked that, she didn't complain. After that I confronted my mother-in-law about it and said I wouldn't give her money anymore. That's when the sweet and kind mother-in-law disappeared. My husband forgave her but it's my mom, and she started playing mind tricks behind the scenes, slowly trying to turn him against me. When they were alone together, she told him that I was cheating on my husband behind his back, that I had tried to her new boyfriend, and he believed her. My husband and I started arguing all the time about her and the things she would say about me. It was awful. I eventually had enough and asked for a divorce. Guess what? A husband to excuse all her. I'm happy that you got out of that nightmare. I'm so glad you got away from him, because how horrible a mother-in-law you got saddled with, and what a useless excuse for an ex-husband to just immediately believe her she can keep him. He didn't seem like he wanted to grow up anyway if he just went right back to her. Wow, I'm glad you're out of that situation. It's so magnanimous of dear husband to forgive her for stealing your money. What a prince. What I was thinking the whole time I was reading was live and learn. It sounds like you accepted early that the money was gone, and hopefully you're not bitter. You're not a sucker for trusting your husband's mother, but I bet you won't make a similar mistake. So some backstory: my mother-in-law seems to be under the mistaken idea that I, 25 female, pushed for an expensive wedding. It's about $20,000 in reality. My significant other, 26 male, wanted it larger than I had wanted and pushed me in that direction. I wanted a pop-up wedding. I am a student, money is tied up in tuition payments, so my significant other is funding our wedding the entire time. Organizing it, she complained about prices and make really long whistly digs about me not contributing so much, e.g. when I said that I preferred the slightly more expensive meal option to the chicken. She literally said that's easy to say when it isn't your money. Or she'd say things like, just because it's your big day doesn't mean he has to have such a big bill, or it's so good of my son to have saved for this so you could get what you wanted. For the record, he saved because he knew he was proposing, I didn't know. Meanwhile, my parents didn't want us to get married because, well, helicopter parents. Needless to say, it was a very stressful engagement. Pandemic happened when and all our practically completely paid deposits were held because everything thus far, and I just wanted to get it over with. We got married at City Hall. We didn't get bachelorette parties. We didn't get a reception. We didn't get a honeymoon. We didn't get to have our families or any friends. All the plans we had spent so long making just poofed out of existence, along with all the money for them that we had already paid. My significant other still wanted to have the wedding, especially after we couldn't get the deposits back, and felt that I would regret not having a real wedding, so we were going to do a Dover wedding so that our family and friends could be there and celebrate with us. My mother-in-law thinks it's wasteful and blames me for it, even though he arrived at that conclusion himself and has said as much to her face. She brings it up nearly every time I see her, and I grin and bear and remind her that he wants it since he wanted the big wedding again. Moderate sized, it's $25,000 including food. And fast forward to now, things didn't open in time this year, so we're doing a sort of vow renewal thing. Everyone in both families are excited since they were upset they couldn't be there the first time. Knowing that almost the entire thing is paid for, she brought it up yet again, says we should be focusing on getting a house, and that since it's been paid for since my brother-in-law's girlfriend is pregnant, they should use our venue, flowers and catering to host a baby ship shower. She wanted me to call all the parties involved and ask them to change the date to one, then only do half the amount of work, give us the difference back so we could use that for a down payment, and then let them use our things. When she said it, they looked as shocked as I was. I had to dig my nails into my palm to stop from snapping at her before I even opened my mouth. My husband responded very evenly that it was important to him to have a wedding. She looked at me and said, "If you had a conscience, you would drop the whole didn't have a wedding thing. It's a waste of his money." She then proceeded to continue to try to explain why we should be doing it her way. I'd also like to point out my brother-in-law and his girlfriend both are full-time. He has a PhD in engineering and is very successful. My significant other works 40 hours a week. He pays our bills and rent. I work 30 hours a week and am a full-time student, do all the cooking and cleaning and pay for all my tuition as it comes to avoid as much student debt as possible. All the food and our random expenses and entertainment. I am perma-stressed and overworked, but I am trying my hardest to not be a burden, but she always makes me feel like I am a freeloader. She came for dinner once when he cooked, and now she just assumes that he cooks when we bring food. She thanks him for it when I make drinks. She thanks him for making it. I'm not so shallow as to interpret that I did it sometimes. He even corrects her if he hears it, but she still acts like I burden him, but thinking still to this day that I'm pushing for a wedding and acting like any resistance he has is my fault, and any resistance I have is me not caring about him, is getting really aggravating. I can't imagine what the heck is wrong in your head to think it's acceptable to ask people to not only not have a wedding but also pay for someone else's baby shower with their wedding deposits. Oh yeah, she didn't say she'd pay us out of our deposits or anything. She thought it would be a good baby shower gift to just, book the venue, cater and pay for plated dinner for a baby shower. Oh, and my favorite dig from the evening, she said that she had considered making the same request for her wedding coming up but decided that she didn't like our venue enough to ask because it's a strange choice for a wedding. We're getting married at an art gallery because he asked to marry him at an art gallery, and we had our first date at an art gallery. She thought it would be perfect for a baby shower though, because the only thing the venue needs is space for gifts to be good for a baby shower. Edit, just a couple of extra details. My brother-in-law and his girlfriend have been together for like 10 years, have lived together for like 8 years, and are older than us and overall just more established in their lives. Dear husband and I met 4 years ago, so I realized that she doesn't really know me well and that she probably doesn't like how quickly we moved forward with getting married. I also think that she feels I'm trying to change him because I do rub off on him, and I can see that he started to drink wine and eat foreign food with me. I enjoy writing and he is really proud of my writing as I write about my experiences with being a POC and likes to share it with my family despite it's not really being their cup of tea. We are proud of each other, but I think she thinks I'm elitist and arrogant and forcing him to change, which I'm not. He just is embracing some of my interests, just like how I'm embracing some of his. It isn't helped by me being quiet and reserved, especially when I'm on edge. Despite me trying to find common ground with her, she never seems very keen to accept we have commonalities. Neither of us, dear husband or myself, are confrontational. We both grew up in argumentative homes and go out of our way to pick our battles, speak calmly and thoughtfully, and express our emotions clearly. We are both very easygoing people. I can lose my temper for sure and can get snarky, but often take the position that I ought not dignify something ridiculous with the response which can seem elitist. Finally, the thing that I'll clarify is that I didn't want a big wedding, partially because I don't like being the center of attention, but everyone except her of course tried to tell me that I did since I only get to do it once. Joke's on them, I've warmed up to the idea now, especially after such a small courthouse thing and seeing everyone who wasn't there, but I wasn't the one who started it. My husband is closer to a stereotypical bridezilla than I am, and even with everything falling apart we both were super chill overall. He chose the venue, My only asks were that wherever it was, one wasn't a golf club as neither of us golf and two was accessibility friendly. He pushed for the included. The only truly upscale things I pushed for was one, a seated dinner which royally off my mother-in-law because multiple people on my side have disabilities which would make a buffet difficult to navigate, and I wouldn't want them to be uncomfortable at any point. I want everyone to have a good time too. I pushed for access to the whole gallery for the evening, like $400 more, so that people are entertained while we did photos and get set up for dinner and such. Everything else either he chose or we decided together. Oftentimes I reined him in, tell her if she's so against it she doesn't have to come, but you and your husband don't want to hear another word about it. Repeat as often as it takes. If she still keeps doing it, walk out, ask her to leave as a united front. He keeps doing this because so far the only consequences have been mom. Stop. Try this at loud. DCB, for duck's sake, it's your ducking son that wants this ducking wedding. Was that said straight enough for you, or are you going to ignore your own son's words and keep pretending that I am some gold digging that rejoices in spending my husband's money? Honestly, you're burning your candle at both ends. This would grate on my nerves like there's no tomorrow. Your husband needs to get a lot more stern with her when she pulls this. The moment that she looks at you to berate you over something he said, he needs to address it right. Then why are you looking at my wife when you say that I'm the one that's making the decision? When she gives him credit for something you do, he should be much more stern. Stop insulting my wife by not giving her the credit for something you know she did, not me. But beyond this, there needs to be consequences for that sort of behavior. He should be telling his mom that comments about how he spends his money are not welcome, and next time she does it you will stop the visit short and then follow through on the thread when she disrespects you after being told not to do it. Same thing. He needs to get visibly angry and give hard consequences for that behavior. Your mother-in-law knows what she's doing, but she thinks she can get away with it because so far there's nothing stopping her. I can't imagine all the horrible things she's saying to her family and friends about you. Your husband really should get more aggressive in stopping this. We have been no contact with mother-in-law and brother-in-law and low contact with sister-in-law for almost half a year. I will say after a month and a halfish of Hades she had been respecting our boundaries until yesterday. I had my annual with my lady doctor and my mother-in-law comes walking in for her appointment. As I'm walking out we were both cordial, said hello and goodbye. I thought nothing of it as we have bumped into each other at the grocery store and the gas station. I'm starting to hate small towns and been very polite but not friendly. I got a call later in the day with my husband asking if everything went okay at my appointment. When I told him everything was fine, he got excited and asked if there was anything I needed to tell him. He got a bit disappointed when I said no and asked why his mom called father-in-law as soon as she was done with her appointment and told him she saw me at the doctor and I was pregnant. At this point I was but decided to just brush it off until after I was done with work. A little while later I get a call at work. Mother-in-law is screaming into the phone, "You're pregnant. I'm so excited for my baby girl to come. Do you think you can keep this from me?" Me, I'm not pregnant. Do not call me at my place of business. Mother-in-law, there's no other reason a woman your age goes to see an OBGYN. You can tell me we can finally be a family again. Me, I'm not pregnant. Do not call me. Goodbye. The nerve of this woman, not only to get my husband excited but now half of the town thinks I'm pregnant. Almost every customer that's come into my store has congratulated me and the disappointment on their face when I tell them I'm not is just heartbreaking. I don't even know what to do at this point. There's no more boundaries to put up without moving away and giving up both of our businesses. I can't get away from her. What can I do to make this woman realize that there can't be a relationship ever? Update: I didn't have to do anything. Someone, I'm thinking my mom or father-in-law, told the right person what happened and it's going around how awful she's treating me. I just had a customer come in and apologize to me about how mother-in-law has been treating me. This rumor meal is finally working in my favor. I can go back to being the happily not pregnant person I was before. My husband's mother has issues. Bless her heart. Might work. Op: is your significant other aware that his mother means you no good? Well, the silver lining here is after this no one will believe mother-in-law's news about you and dear husband, and you have a preview into how she'll behave if you fall pregnant in the future. I doubt there's a remedy in law for her ridiculous gossiping, but I would definitely document it. Maybe get a signed statement from a few people she directly told down the road. This could be useful if you do need to pursue criminal charges once she escalates. Oh, and certainly if you ever do fall pregnant, don't tell her before you are ready for the world to know.